So when it comes to video games, often reality is left very much at the door and can only peer through the window at the over-the-top chaos that is ensuing inside. Within these walls are weird and wacky scenarios that pull the shorts down on the laws of physics, that kick the concept of believability in the face, and who thoroughly torment the weighty drudgery of real life. It's basically like a very unfair fight club. And speaking of clubs, video games throw the rulebook out the window when it comes to weapons, presenting players with pokers, prodders, and absolute piss-taking methods of dispatching your enemies. There's always a more over-the-top weapon, always a more insane way to do away with hordes of goons, and of course, this doesn't stop when it comes to world-destroying Doomsday weapons that bring the entire world to its knees. So let's break down the greatest, most devastating, and sometimes so utterly outrageous Doomsday weapons that will leave you utterly bewildered and amazed in equal measure. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most devastating Doomsday weapons in video game history. Number 10. Archimedes 2, Fallout New Vegas. So I think it's safe to say that Archimedes, the Greek scholar of mathematics, physics, engineering, and astronomy, God, leave some for the rest of us, mate, was a bit of a clever sort. In fact, his list of accomplishments are widely touted as being the backbone for many advancements in maths and science, which is mighty impressive indeed, but not quite as impressive as his literal real-life heat ray. That's right, this fella over here actually managed to make a device that focused and bounced light through mirrors and lenses in such a manner that it turned it into a heat ray, which he reportedly used on enemy ships. This is something that the makers of Fallout New Vegas took and ran with when they created the Archimedes 2, a doomsday weapon that uses solar power to charge a satellite to the point that it fires down a pillar of pure energy onto those below. And of course, you can get your hands on this monster to deep fry anyone who dares question your new role as God of the Sun. Seriously, this weapon is so utterly potent with raw energy that I'm getting sunburned just talking about it. Number 9. Pandora, Devil May Cry 4. Now to be fair, even a stick of wet celery could probably be termed as a doomsday device in the hands of Devil May Cry's Dante, seeing as the man can destroy anything he casts his shadow over with ease and a bucket load of style. Thus, when you see even the son of Sparda seem a little worried about the power of a specific devil arm in Devil May Cry 4, you know that this weapon is something special. I'm speaking, of course, about Pandora, based on the myth of Pandora's box, which is said to have contained all of humanity's mental and physical curses in Greek legend. Here, though, Pandora contains an absolute metric shedload of transforming weapons which the user can manifest to wreak havoc on their enemies. Being able to summon Gatling guns, floating bladed discs, and even a super special move called Omen, which simply destroys anything in the vicinity, it's the kind of power that will most definitely corrupt absolutely, making it a debonair doomsday device with little equal. Imagine slamming this hellish Halliburton down onto the desk the next time somebody questions you where the Peterson account is at, because I'd wager it would lead to that line of inquiry ending and the keys to the city being handed over shortly after. Number 8. Tactical Nuke, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. While other entries on this list might be weapons of mass destruction on a level far above that of our own reality, sometimes the tried and true and pant-wettingly real methods for global annihilation are the best. And thanks to the likes of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, every player had the opportunity to wield the power of the atom. Well, should they be skilled enough? I'm talking, of course, about the absolute banter choice by the devs to give a tactical nuke kill streak to those able to pull off 25 kills without dying, leading to what soon became one of the most dreaded endings to any online match. Yes, the tactical nuke will end the match and award the team that called it in a victory no matter the current scores, meaning that you'd likely find yourself in one of two terrible positions. Either you'd be getting an absolute ass kicking and this is the cherry on top of a humiliation sundae, or it will elicit cries of frustration that somehow, against all odds, one member of a losing team had managed to scrounge up some radiation and was now dropping it on your head. Number 7. Weaponized Wasps, Dead Rising. When you cast your eyes over Capcom's brilliantly over-the-top zombie murder simulator Dead Rising, you might pass it off as just another game about zombies. However, there's so much more going on with the undead horde beneath their rotten surfaces. For you see, these aren't your regular reanimated corpses, as these are actually the result of something even more terrifying, because here the real culprit behind all the brain munching is the purveyor of picnic panic, wasps. Now technically these wasps have been bioengineered to carry a virus that makes whatever it stings incessantly hungry, hungry. So the real evil are actually the scientists behind it, but on a base level, well, a winged demon of death with a stinger of doom. Just think about it, weaponized wasps that can turn everything they sting into a harbinger of hungry destruction. It's definitely not the most elegant Doomsday weapon, but it sure as hell would be effective, as the Dead Rising games definitely prove over and over again. Hell, you could even look at the Zombrex cure here as being the end goal, keeping the populace enslaved to purchasing your anti-zombie treatment and holding it over their head as a powerful reminder of what could happen if they miss a payment. And somehow, that's even more grim. Number 6, the Groovertron, Ratchet & Clank. So you've heard the expression disco is dead? Well, thanks to the Groovertron from Ratchet & Clank, you can respond with, disco isn't dead, but you sure are. Now, while the Groovertron isn't a deadly weapon in the sense that it kills those caught in its groovy singularity, it does render everyone, and I mean everyone, completely at the whim of the user, forced to dance along to the beat until its juice runs out. And if we're being honest, that is just as deadly. How, I hear you ask? Well, if you're too busy dancing, then you're not at all busy protecting yourself from being shot at point-blank range by some other terrifying weapon from the Ratchet & Clank series. Plus, the sheer embarrassment of having to shake my booty would make me invert through sheer cringe, seeing as I resemble an inflatable tube man on bath salts. Imagine all the world leaders brought to their knees in fear of having to dance forever to the sounds of disco. Funky. Number 5, an AI network controlling every soldier on the planet. Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. With the ever-increasing advancements in technology, we as humans are witnessing feats of wonder that feel ripped straight out of the pages of sci-fi novels. Augmented realities, bionic limbs, a toaster with dials that actually mean something other than kissed by a light bulb or cremated. But of course, with these leaps and bounds comes the worry of what would happen should this tech be used against us. And leave it to Hideo Kojima to take that to its endpoint with his wonderfully terrifying example of what would happen should even one person gain control of a mad amount of technology. You see, in one of Metal Gear Solid 4's craziest and best scenes, villain Liquid Ocelot manages to hijack the system, a network of AI-controlled weapons, vehicles, and even nanomachine-infused soldiers to do his bidding, wrenching helicopters from the sky, forcing head trauma on the opposition, and making sure that only his side's weapons actually function. Ocelot starts literally pointing at things that he wants to die or explode, with the system doing the rest. If you ever wanted an entire army of soldiers that do your bidding down to the letter, alongside making sure no one could ever fire back, this is the Doomsday weapon of choice for you. Just maybe make sure to password protect this program, otherwise you might end up popping and locking yourself to death for the enemy's amusement. Number 4, the ID Eliminator. Evil genius. If there's anything scarier than the thought of a global apocalypse caused by laser beams, environmental manipulation, or a horde of weaponized wasps, it's the utter deletion and removal of one's sense of self. It's the one thing on this planet that is entirely unique to us. That while we might watch the same TV shows or enjoy the same food as millions of others, our specific thoughts and experiences that in turn shape who we are as individuals are 100% our own. Therefore, you can understand how utterly rotten it would be if the ID Eliminator from Evil Genius was unleashed upon the world, as here, this literal Doomsday device scrubs the mind of all it touches, converting everyone into the exact same person, likely under the heel of whoever pushed that big red button. Just like that, all of your desires and dreams are gone in an instant, replaced instead with mindless drudgery as you endlessly mop the floor for your evil overlord. Of all the other weapons and items on this list, this is possibly the most genuinely terrifying. Number 3, the Dollar Flu. Tom Clancy's The Division. Tom Clancy's The Division was a title that spread through the gaming consciousness like a plague itself, with players embracing its looter-shooter mechanics and rather dour narrative, as here alongside the usual faceless goons and corrupt government cells was a killer virus. The Dollar Flu, or green poison, was developed and unleashed by Dr. Gordon Amherst as a means of population control, and spread the virus by contaminating currency and circulating it through New York across Black Friday, where the money would be changing hands most frequently. It's as smart as it was terrifyingly deadly, with the Dollar Flu wiping out 95% of the population, leaving the Big Apple looking a little more rotten as the whole area was then thrown into chaos by gangs and warring survivors. If there's anything sure to make people sweat bullets, it's the thought of another pandemic, so I'd say that most countries would go to great lengths to keep this from ever happening, which is a fine bargaining tool for any would-be world tyrant. Number 2, the Final Egg Blaster. Sonic Unleashed. The Final Egg Blaster. Now that is a name sure to leave those on the receiving receiving end with the combination of panic and confusion on their faces, just before they're obliterated into nothingness. Whilst it is definitely worrying that Dr. Eggman from the Sonic series seemingly picked the name for this monstrous weapon based on the first idea that he came up with, it sure was the last thing that many unlucky civilians saw when its power was fully shown off in Sonic Unleashed. I mean, it breaks the bloody earth apart, so it's already making other Doomsday weapons look about as deadly as a Pez dispenser. Now, on the surface, the Death Egg itself is the perfect Doomsday weapon, as its sheer size and the fact that it's festooned with weaponry makes it something that you can't ignore. I mean, just imagine looking up at the sky and seeing this horrible Majora's mustachioed moon face looking down at you, and then remembering, oh yeah, it's also got a cannon inside that can punch a hole right through to Australia. That is enough to make you quake in your crocs and do whatever that moon of doom is asking of you, right? And number 1, Meteor Strike. Destroy all humans too. When it comes to Doomsday weapons that pack a punch, you could pretty much wave your hand across any of the Destroy All Humans titles and say, well, any of them, as truly there isn't another franchise so utterly devoted to destruction as to make the elimination of human life its main focal point. Still, if we're to pick just one of these wonderfully designed weapons, then for me, it has to be the Meteor Strike, if not for its sheer destructive power in that it pulls down debris from the sky the size of a car, down wherever Crypto deems fit, but also because of its sheer disregard for the planet as a whole. By using this weapon, you don't just want to eliminate your enemies, you want to go above and beyond with a display that is both overwhelmingly over the top, but also, when charged up and pulling down multiple meteorites, absolutely metal as Tremble before your alien overlord, pitiful humans, for if this wee space boy deems fit, you'll be nothing more than human jam in a smouldering crater. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 most devastating Doomsday weapons in video game history. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by Instagram, where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we detailed today about devastating Doomsday weapons with a focus of ending all life on the planet, I want to end things on a slightly more positive note by urging you to go out there with love in your hearts instead of hate, to build bridges instead of burning them, because trust me, the only way that we're going to get through this crazy thing called life is together as one. So be kind to yourself and your neighbor, because they deserve it as much as you do. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.